All right, so I'll go ahead and do the intro because it's my turn and introduce the two of you, and then you guys can talk about your show as much as you want. I'll come in, talk about how awesome it is.
Yeah, when it gets too long, we'll cut you off.
Yep. And then I'll talk through the format. Ash, I know you're at least familiar with it, but I'll just talk through our format real quick, and then we'll jump right into it.
This is the Anime Shoshin. Are you ready?
Hey team, welcome to Anime Shoshin. My name is Blake and this is Merv.
Hello.
And I could not be more excited to be joined by the Simping for Senpai podcast team. We've got Mr. Ash Basham on the show today.
What's up?
Joined by Daddy Coon as well. I'm very excited. Welcome.
Konnichiwa.
All right. And if you've not heard of the Simping for Senpai podcast, you need to check it out. Merv and I have both been on it. Super fun. I can tell you we've done a few collaborations, and hopefully no one else listens to this, but it was definitely my most fun podcast to be on, 100%. So
except for the other ones we were on.
Well played. Nice save. Thank you, Merv.
Except for yours, if you're listening.
Yeah. If we were on yours and you're listening, then yours was better as well. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your podcast, what you do, and where people can find you?
Go for it, Daddy-kun. You got this.
Oh, I got this? Oh, man. Okay.
Surprise,
right? So our podcast, Simping, is an amazing, awesome, if you're a simper, you could also check out our podcast. You could find our podcast, I believe, anywhere you could listen to a podcast. I know Spotify for sure. We're on Spotify. We are on other platforms that Ash here could elaborate more on.
I most definitely will. So we're on Podbean, Google Podcast, Audible from Amazon. We're on Reason, Stitcher, pretty much all the big ones were there except for Pandora and iHeartRadio.
Hello and welcome to all new and veteran weebs to the Simping for Senpai podcast, where we make it our goal to make sure that you watch your goddamn animes.
Pandora's takes a bit to get on. I think we might have just got on. They don't like to reply when you try to get onto Pandora.
I stopped trying.
Yeah. So let me ask you, where'd the name come from? Simping for Senpai.
I don't remember the origin story. Do you remember it, Daddy-kun?
Well, you and I are, we're not kids anymore. We are older. We do simp, and we are senpais to other people. So, it just correlated together, simping for senpais.
It's got that alliteration.
Exactly.
And it's a dope name. I love your name.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And it's memorable for sure. So real quick, before we get started, we are talking about Gundam today. We're going to have a mech conversation. This is our first mech episode.
This is our first mech.
Yep. So thank you for joining us for that. We're going to be talking about the first season of Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Yeah, right. This is awesome.
These kids have no idea what they're in for.
So it should be a good show to discuss today. I'm pretty excited about that. Just a quick word about the format. We do our rating first. So in a minute, I'm going to do a little thing. And then 1 through 5, you're going to hold up your rating, 1 through 5. No threes, so you're not allowed to be in the middle. You need to make a decision. You either are going to recommend it or you don't. And our rating's a little different because it's not necessarily did you like it. It's would you recommend it to others? Is this something you're going to go out and say, hey, you should watch this anime? So that's kind of what the scale's based on, and you can figure out how to rate from there accordingly. After that, I've got a really terrible about section today, so I'm going to be asking for some help from the audience about what it's about. And then Merv will cover things from a writer's perspective because he has that experience writing and teaching writing and storytelling and rhetoric and all that stuff.
But what I'm really going to do is throw a question at you guys that you'll be completely unprepared for.
Okay.
Bring it.
Yeah. And then after that, we just kind of go back and forth what our likes and dislikes, what would go on the diss track, what were our favorite things about it, and then we will wrap up. Sound fair?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go ahead and start with the rating. Is everyone ready? Hold your hands out.
Will you recommend this to us? First comes Rock. John Kenpon.
All right, here we go. First comes Rock. John Kenpon.
Jeez, I'm all on my own out here. I'm on an island.
Wow.
I gave it a 2.
Ooh.
Okay, I waffled a little bit.
Now, again, this is would I recommend it, not did I enjoy it.
Yeah. What we've got for the listeners is we've got Ash with a 4, we've got myself with a 4, we've got Daddy with a 4, and then we have Merv with a 2.
The grumpy old curmudgeon
Yeah, that's
with a 2.
That's about correct. I will throw this out there, though. If it wasn't for the second half of this season, it would have been a 2 for me all day long. 100%. If we were just looking at the first half of this, I would have given it a 2, but I'm sure we'll get more into that. So next, let's talk briefly about what it's about. I'm literally going to read the Wikipedia description of what it's about. And then I thought we could talk about it a little bit more as a group. Again, kind of throw you off and just say, okay, to you, in a few sentences, what was this about? So start thinking about that as I read this Wikipedia description.
Gotcha.
So this is the 14th mainline entry in Sunrise's Gundam franchise. Iron-Blooded Orphans follows the exploits of a group of juvenile soldiers who establish their own security company, Tekkaden. After rebelling against the adults who betrayed them on a futuristic terraform Mars, the series deals with several real-life problems such as war, slavery, child soldiers, poverty, and corruption. The catchphrase of the series is, "The sustenance of life is on the battlefield." And then, dun dun dun, after that. So that's the end of the catchphrase. It starts off with the sustenance thing and then dun dun dun, right?
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
So, in your own words, Ash, I'm going to start with you, my friend. I'm pumped to have you on today. Why don't you tell us what Iron-Blooded Orphans is about in your own words?
So, thank you very much for having me on the show, guys. I'm glad that I was able to come on after you guys have been on my show. So, in my own words, how Iron-Blooded Orphans is, or what it's about, it's essentially a group of kids, essentially a giant family, coming together and actually trying to fulfill a purpose that they've always wanted to do without any type of being held back by anything. And they're trying to do anything by any means necessary. And I feel that that's pretty much strongly how I felt about what the show is actually about.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Daddy Kuhn, what about you? What's Iron-Blooded Orphans about to you?
Oh man, as soon as you said iron-blooded, that's exactly how the kids are.
Yeah.
They want, I was gonna say freedom, but in a sense they do want freedom. So to me, the show is kind of like how Ash said, it's a bunch of child soldiers that come together, create something that they've always wanted to do, and they want to achieve their dream, but they have to go through thick and thin with their security company, kind of like you said, like Tekkaden. There was as you saw, all the drama that went within it. But to me, I guess, to put it in simpler terms, a awesome show with awesome giant robot fights.
That too.
Yeah.
I really thought when you went, as soon as you said Iron-Blooded, I realized I watched the wrong show. That's what I expected to come.
Right?
As soon as you said Iron-Blooded, I realized I watched Gundam some other thing.
Look, Mikazuki, the feedback from a mobile suit is a whole lot different than a mobile worker's. It could damage your cerebral nerves.
It's all right. I mean, I never use them much anyway.
Right.
So, Merv, I will go ahead and turn it over to you. So why don't you take us through whatever you want to do for writer's perspective today?
Regale us with your wit, storyteller.
I don't get to say what it's about.
No, dude. You get your turn. You can if you want, of course.
I say it's Lord of the Flies with giant robots.
Ooh, that's good too.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that's why
good
I wanted my turn.
Yeah, you wanted to be able to go through that. That's fair. Completely
I
fair.
can see it.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I want to talk about today is a protagonist. Ash, when I was on your show, you did a quiz, and I did pretty well, I thought, for how little I knew about anime. But do you know what a protagonist is, right?
Of course I do.
So I was going to give you an easy quiz.
Aw.
Tell me what a protagonist is.
So protagonist is essentially the story that we're following from the perspective of that specific character. So we go through his, whether if he had trials, tribulations, or he was just hand-fed everything to him on a silver platter.
Yeah, I like that. So who are our favorite protagonists? Doesn't have to be related to this or Gundam, just who do you think is your favorite protagonist? Everybody, Daddy Coon, Blake, Ash.
Boji. Don't even have to think. Boji.
What have you got to be so happy about, kid? You're happy to have somebody to talk to?
Boji's a great choice.
I'm gonna go video game on this one, and I'm gonna go with Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid series.
Nice.
That's good.
And for me, Eren Yeager.
Of all the people in the world that power could have gone to, Eren is by far the worst.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Okay, and why
I do have to say something real quick. Sorry, Merv, while we're here. Bryce Papenbrook does Eren Yeager's dub voice, and I cannot remember the character's name, but one of the characters in this as well. And we did get a trademark Bryce Papenbrook, you bastard, in this, where I don't think anyone on this planet can say, you bastard, as well as that dude. So that definitely stuck out to me. Good choice.
Get away from us! Rat bastards! I'll kill you where you stand!
What is the thing you like, Ash? What do you like about Solid Snake?
So what I like about Solid Snake, it's the fact that, one, he was a clone from a project that was done in I believe it was the late 70s in the series, which is called Les Enfants Terribles, which is known as the Terrible Children's in French. And we follow essentially his journey through from being the son of like the greatest like hero in the history of the franchise, which was Big Boss. But the thing is, like, he was also like in his late 50s when they cloned him. So he deals with it's a hyper aging syndrome that he has.
Your cells, blood, organs, nerves, skeletal system, muscle tissue, every part of your body is aging rapidly.
So by the time we see him throughout the entire series, he's aged almost 3 times his normal age. By the time we get to Metal Gear Solid 4, he's already technically considered a senior citizen in his 60s. But for some reason, he still fights and continue fighting for like whatever cause that he has.
He can still sneak real well.
Yeah, pretty much. He still does it. The main reason why I really do like him is because he's been one character that's throughout the entire franchise. He's always been there, does what he feels is right, and he also tries to right the wrongs of like from his predecessors beforehand.
Yeah, so a lot of things that he is dealing with are through no fault of his own. Being born to a hero and being this aging disorder.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Danny Kuhn, what do you like about Yeager?
What do I like about Eren Yeager?
Well done.
So the thing I like about Eren is, I'm pretty sure most of us have seen Attack on Titan, but I guess just witnessing his story come to life and him wanting to achieve a dream of freedom, and now, as you can see by the latest season and by reading the manga, the hero turns into the villain because of the hate of the outside world. And what he wants is peace and freedom for his family, his island, his home. And he's willing to do anything to get it.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, that's good. It's a very active character. He is not following orders. He's very active. Like, what do you like about Boji? We have like 16 episodes on.
Yeah, Ranking of Kings. If anyone wants to know anything about Ranking of Kings.
All right.
Yeah. We love Ranking of Kings so much.
We do love Ranking of Kings. Yeah.
In a world now where our protagonists and heroes are often, especially in the West, handed everything. They just have the thing. So Mulan comes to mind for me. So the original Mulan, it was a female who was pretending to be a male soldier, and she got her butt kicked, and she had to struggle, and it was this amazing story, this amazing growth that we experienced with her as the protagonist. In the new Mulan, the main character, got magic powers because she has more chi than everyone else. So she's immediately just given this extra special power that no one has, and it makes her unbeatable, invincible. She doesn't have to fight for it. She doesn't have to work for it. And I feel like that's a major problem in especially Western storytelling right now, is our protagonists don't struggle. They're just given everything, right? Boji in Ranking of Kings is given nothing. The opposite of nothing. He's given negative things. He has literally no strength, can't talk. He just starts from negative and is able to become the most powerful. So I love that. And I think it just flies in the face of everything that's wrong with Western storytelling right now.
All right. So now I'm going to defend my 2. And the reason I would give this a 2, well, there's a couple reasons. This is, what'd you say, like the 21st Gundam or
14th.
17th?
Yeah, 14th. Yeah.
What, like, I've never watched any Gundam. And I feel like if I had, I would have liked this. I mean, I liked it quite a bit, actually. But
Yeah, I have that down as a note too.
But if I had watched more, I would get a little bit more out of it. And now, this might not even be a problem from a writing standpoint with this show, but I think because it's like the 14th, so they're like, well, you're the idiot that watched the 14th one first. That's a fair critique on what I'm going to talk about, but I would have liked this more, or I would have been able to follow it more, like especially early on, if Mika was a stronger protagonist in the things, basically everything that we've talked about. Like Ash said, you like Snake, Solid Snake, because he's in over his head in things that he had no control over. You can kind of say that about Mika, but he just kind of follows and he doesn't really have agency.
Hey, I want you to do something, and it's kind of important, so... That's it? You're just gonna accept before hearing it?
Of course I will, because it's you.
Which is what you were talking about with Jaeger. I can't do that. I can't do the German deal. He's very active. He has a ton of agency. Mika just kind of follows everything Orga tells him to do, and Orga works as his brain in a lot of ways. Like he's just told what to do. And also, to Blake's point with Boji, he just sort of is super good at piloting and is given the best mech that there is just because he's the best one. And so there's probably a lot of Gundam stuff here, but what I would have rather had is a protagonist that had to work his way up, that didn't know a lot about the world, so that he could work as a audience surrogate for idiots like me who watched the 14th one first and then don't have any idea what's going on. Like the world doesn't, like I assume the Calamity War is something that they've discussed like in other Gundams and stuff. And so I would have liked a kind of a stronger protagonist there to kind of pull me through, which is why I gave it a 2, which means I would not recommend it to people. I would ask them first, a caveat, have you watched at least 10 of the other Gundam? Then this is probably one for you. But as your first Gundam, I would have to say it doesn't hand feed you, which is good and bad because that can be annoying for people who are actual fans. And so giving fans what they want, I'm always a champion of. I'm not really trying to diss it. I'm saying this is what it did well, was giving, like throwing you in the world and letting you figure it out. But it's also what's hard for, I'm coming from a point of view of like a newcomer, and this story is not digestible for a newcomer.
At least not a good part of the way through it. And Merv, you're good. We can move. Yes?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we'll move into our favorite things in our diss track, and I'll just pick this up with the diss I was talking about earlier that I have.
I see you have made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it.
I definitely think it's rooted in the fact that we haven't watched Gundam. So we're not familiar with the world. We're not familiar with the story. But the first half of it, they're saying names and places and all these things. And I'm like, so lost. All I heard was
politics, politics.
Politics, right? I didn't hear, because I had no idea what they were talking about. So it took me a while to get invested in it. But then once we kind of got to the second half, I was able to piece a lot of it together. And it got into what I would call the more orphan stage, like where it was actually about the orphan part of things. Then I think it got significantly better. And I saw the struggle not as Mika Zuki's struggle as kind of the main protagonist. I saw the struggle as the group's struggle. And to me, the ultimate struggle or sacrifice is in that final battle where they're all willing to give up their lives for a cause that they don't even need to be involved in, but they, as a family, have found something to be bought into, and they're going after that. So that's where the story, and I looked at like the group of orphans as the protagonist at that point, I guess. What about anyone else? What's something that you liked or did not like about Iron-Blooded Orphans?
I guess I'll go. The one thing that I'm probably gonna iterate a lot throughout your show is the robot fight scenes.
Yeah.
They were really good. And I'm kind of on the same boat as you, Blake and Merv. this was my first ever Gundam that I've watched. I've always heard about Gundam. I've always heard about it.
Yeah, of course.
But then, there's how you said other versions and seasons of different stories, and so me coming into this, I enjoyed it. Again, mainly the robot fights, because I'm a huge what is it? The term kaiju, like titans. Like I love just anything that has to do with like kaijus or titans.
I mean, does it count the giant robot stuff? Like, this is my first Gundam, but like I have a giant Voltron Lego set right over there and stuff. So like I like giant robots, and I have this on as a dis/like. I don't know if anyone else has this problem when they watch these ones. Is I just end up rooting for the coolest looking robot, instead of rooting for the good guy.
You're not wrong.
Like, wow, that robot's way cooler. I hope they win.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Okay, good.
I think that's a great point, though, the fights. And so I'm a little split on this, too. Once they got to Earth and they were fighting on land, it was some of the coolest action I've seen. I love those on-land fights where you can really see what is going on. When they're in space, for a lot of it, I'm like, what was that? I see lines like jumping. I don't know what just happened. So once they got to land, it was amazing, amazing action for sure.
Here's a question: Is I keep wanting to call him Barbados.
How do you read this?
Gundam frame type Barbaros.
But Barbados?
Barbados, yeah.
Barbados.
Barbados. That word from before. It's this one's name.
Barbatos. Is that a established Gundam, or is this his first appearance?
This is actually his first appearance because when they did mention the Calamity Wars does happen in a different Gundam actual series. I just wish Psychotics is here because he knows it more than I do, but I know part of it. So the thing is, when it comes to Gundam, and this is probably going to be the biggest thing, a lot of the stories do not align at all.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Only certain ones do. Now, there are spin-offs of other ones, like the original 1970s Gundam, which featured the RX-72, the RX-78-2 Gundam, actually does have another story, which I believe was Gundam Origins. That was also part of it, because that also was like a sequel to the series. If this is your first Gundam series, this is going to be my actual positive on this. If this is your first series, you actually came into probably a great series. Like, this is actually probably one of the most better ones that there is when it comes to the storytelling, and and there is a diss on top of that thing because it happens in every single Gundam. Politics. 90% of Gundam series deals with politics, and the thing is, it's very wordy. There's a lot of talking. It's understandable. You will get a lot of information, but the payoffs for everything, which is going to be a plus, the payoffs are good, like really good.
Yeah.
By the end, it was solid.
I actually have a degree, little known fact, I have a degree in political science.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind the politics. But sometimes in these shows, I've noticed I can't always differentiate the groups. Give them very gonzo, like, this is the guy, these guys only wear red and these guys only wear blue. And because sometimes I'm like, wait, I thought they were from that other group.
Well, this is a positive plus and or negative on top of that. When it comes to the politics and stuff like that, it happens in almost every single mech show you will watch if you start watching more.
Yeah, you're right. It is very political.
Yes.
The only other one I've really gotten into is 86.
Oh.
So I do a lot of comparisons between this and 86. So I feel like 86 got me to the feels way faster than this did. So I don't think that's 100% fair on this show, but because that one is so good.
Handler 1 to Undertaker. Multiple enemy interceptor groups at points 30 and 50. Advance immediately and take them out. Gotta say, though, with that many of them, I don't think any of you are coming back alive.
I mean, it's just so good. But yeah, I that makes sense about the politics. Since you mentioned Ash Psychotics, I do have to throw out something that we had talked about in case he listens to this. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that it came up. So
he will.
Did anyone else notice at the beginning of episode 7 the big penis?
Yes,
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Yes, that was.
Why didn't you text me?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
He sent me a message. He's like, all right, have you gotten to episode 7
Yeah.
yet? There's something at the beginning of this. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it right. what's great about it, there's a few things that are great about it. So first, it's a screenshot of their ship, but it's taken from like underneath. So it literally looks like a big penis.
Yeah.
And it's blurred hentai style. Like the blurring is hentai style. And at the very beginning of the episode, there's a girl in skimpy clothes. And this is her exact quote as she looks at this penis in the sky, right?
Let's call it a ship.
Yeah, a sheeness.
There you go. Yeah, I like that better.
She says, "Oh,
Looking good. Anyway, I'm looking forward to gobbling that up. It looks like a big, tasty lobster. Yummy!
yummy." So you know that's all intentional.
Yeah,
like
right.
everything there was completely intentional. So shout out to Psychotics. I figured it out, my friend, and I hope you enjoyed the shout out.
I did not catch that.
No, I didn't either.
I think there's a psychological deal there, but
Yeah.
I'll go for another one on this one. So I did like when you brought up Mecha as like you didn't feel that he's the protagonist. Well, I have a positive when it comes to who I feel that is the actual main character, and that is Kudelia Bernstein. I feel that technically she is actually the main character the entire time of the series.
My name is Kudelia Aina Bernstein.
Kudelia?
Hold on. Aren't you the one who's on the news? Wait, are you saying she's a celebrity?
And I feel that I'm glad that she took a back seat in a lot of the stuff that's going on, but you can tell that she's doing everything what a main protagonist is supposed to do.
Yeah.
she's calling a lot of the shots.
Yeah.
She has a lot of the agency.
And I think it probably has more growth too, more of a change throughout it.
Mika is a tough character to follow because he's a psychopath, for one. Since he's like uncaring and unafraid for a lot of it, especially early on, which is I think what was the holdup for Blake, is it's hard to care when the character doesn't care. It's hard to feel afraid if the character doesn't feel afraid. Even if they're just being badasses and eating candy, I don't know, palm dates. I don't know what those things are that he's eating all the time.
It was dried plums, yeah.
Yeah, so like
Mars sustenance.
Yeah.
And
it made for some comedy. Sorry, Merv.
Yeah.
It made for comedy because he was so aloof.
Right.
So there were parts where I laughed at how aloof he was.
Okay, now what are we gonna do? I'm not really sure yet.
You hadn't thought about it?
But yeah, it didn't make him. He didn't have any agency. That's for sure.
no, he followed Orga until Kaiden, right? Until she took over. I'm not sure if I'm saying anyone's name correctly.
No, but that's okay. We know
I'm doing it all intentionally. I just say the names wrong intentionally.
for jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could say I'm perfect.
Daddy Kun, you haven't said one in a bit. What's something you liked or did not like about this?
I guess it's a diss, kind of like what Merv was saying. I couldn't be too sold on what's his name is Maki
Mika.
Mika. Yeah,
Mikazuki.
Mikazuki. I didn't really see him as the main character. I do agree with Ash that Cordelia and Bernstein, I felt like she had way more growth than he did. She actually, kind of like Uncle Ben, Spider-Man. She's had someone close to her pass away, and and that changed her, and she became a pretty cool MC in my opinion.
Kudelia, this is all up to you now, okay?
And you could tell by the way they put the camera on, I wish I could remember her name, but like her caretaker or whatever, that she was doing something.
Fumitan.
Yeah, Fumitan.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Fumitan was doing something shady. You could just tell by the shots they were giving her. You knew she was betraying in some way. But what I love about Bernstein's development or growth is she goes from being very naive and idealistic to being not naive, but still idealistic. And I thought that was a really cool, growth. That was a cool transition.
Looks like you won in the end.
Did I really win? Because honestly, I'm beginning to wonder exactly what I've been fighting for.
And speaking of that betrayal, one of the things I really like about anime that we've lost in the West, I feel like, and this is for this show did it well, and then I think anime in general does it pretty well, is like there's unexpected betrayals and unexpected twists. It's not like, oh, this character is a certain type of character, so we know they're a good guy. we know they'll never turn bad. We know this character, this, like, a lot of times, like, the mentor figure, the old man, he's not going to turn, and then they kind of have those betrayals and stuff. So I thought this show did that well. There was a couple of them where I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, that I didn't see coming. I don't know the guy's name. He pulls off his mask.
Oh, McGillis or whatever.
McGillis Farid.
Yeah, and it was sweet because, like, if you look at, I was like, really? And then I looked at, there's a poster of those two guys next to each other, like as an advertisement on Netflix. And I almost took a screenshot of it because it's literally everything is exactly the same except the mask is on. It's like, man, like, that should be something you notice, but it's something that anime can get away with because of the style of it.
I did the same damn thing. There was the reveal. I didn't catch any of that. I was blindsided. And then literally, Merv, exact same thing. I saw that little screen grab or that little promo thing where their faces are. I'm like, I am dumb as hell. Like, how did I not?
Which is brilliant because you're putting those two characters next to each other. So it's like meta tricking you. Why would we put the same character on the poster twice? We wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But they did.
I'd like to add on to things that anime does really well, Merv, since you went there. So I want to talk about Nazai Turban.
Yes.
Okay. So I love this in anime, how in anime you can have characters that through our Western eyes, you would think would be shady betrayers, 100%. That they're just going to be this shady character because they're so quirky and they just have he has that like gangster look to him. But it turns out he's not shady at all, and like he's good. He's like a good brother to Orga, and it just turns out that nope, this character is just a good character. Surprise, you Western people.
Well, yeah, and he like jumps into like let's be blood brothers. Like,
yeah,
we just met, but let's be blood brothers. Right. Because I like your
style. Yeah.
As you know, these guys aren't afraid of taking chances. Well, I want to swear a Sakazuki blood oath to their leader.
I want to add on to Naze as well because you guys know how big of a fan I am of like roms and rom-coms. He probably by far had the best line, and this is a positive on the show. And when he's talking about, and when everyone was talking about like Orga and Mika were all talking about like why are there so many women on this like ship, he goes, oh, there's only nothing but women, and he goes, of course, this is my harem, and I laughed so hard.
Yeah, that was dope.
I was not like, that's my favorite character now. Like, honestly, that's my favorite character.
By the way, I've seen nothing but women on this ship.
Well, of course. Wherever I go, my harem follows.
Yeah, he was sweet. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was a real fun character. He is what my friends would call a Merv character because he's the type of character I play in D&D all the time.
Nice.
Like the suave, like
scoundrel.
Yeah.
Daddy Coon, what's something else you've got, my friend?
Is it like the likes, dislikes?
Yeah, whatever comes into your head, man.
Yeah, just hit us with whatever, and then we'll all interrupt.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess it is a like. I'm hesitating. I thought Orca was going to betray Mika for some weird reason. I felt it, kind of like how you guys said, it's like, hey, we just met, let's be blood brothers. There was just something about it. But I thought that was gonna be like a very big betrayal. Orca's the brains, the man with the plan, and Mika's more of the muscle and combatant. And I don't know, I just thought something was gonna happen, but it was just my imagination and nothing came of it.
Well, no, I could see that too, and I think it's a good point because again, we're watching these things. We live in America, right?
Yeah,
so we watch a lot of Western stuff.
I do anyway.
And watched a lot of Western stuff until it went in the toilet, and now we just watch anime, right? But
yeah.
The thing about their relationship is it almost seems fake to us.
Yeah.
Because it's like too close, it's like too perfect.
Yeah.
Mikazuki trusts Orga almost too much. So we're watching this and we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're like, when is the other shoe going to drop?
We're all cynical.
Yeah.
We definitely are.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what I said about Naze Turban. I thought I was waiting for the other shoe to drop with that too. So I think that's a really good point.
You and this one here did a good job.
I agree. And I thought the same thing. I thought what it was going to be was not a betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of kind of happened, but everyone was in on it. I thought he was going to send Mika kind of to his death as like a decoy.
Yeah.
And they did. And that is kind of what happened. But I thought he was going to have to like make that decision. But everyone was in on it. They're like, we'll go to our deaths. Huzzah!
Yep. Sign me up. Sign me up. Ash, have you seen the second season of this? Have you watched the second season of this?
All right, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I watched this series a long time ago. I think it was like around 2018. I think it was the first time I actually watched this. So I know the second season gets a little more touchy-feely on some of the subject matters that kind of, depending on how you saw it, might have plagued the first season a bit.
Okay.
But they actually make it they do some changes better. But I would have to rewatch it just to be on the safe side because that's mainly what I remember.
Does it end Game of Thrones style, like Red Wedding Game of Thrones style? I read a little blurb, just a little blurb, and I feel like it ends, I'm a spoiler maybe, but like everyone dies.
I wish I can give you that answer, but I don't know. I don't remember.
To me, that's a plus, though, is that they were willing to kill off. I mean, it's a lot of times it's so hard for anime to actually kill anyone. You know, it's like they're dead and now they're not.
Right.
And they weren't, but they were. And this one, they actually went for it.
I have that written down as one of my likes, too, since we're talking about it, is the deaths. Is like, and I've even complained about that on this show. Is like some of the animes, it'll be like the person was like stabbed through the heart and it cuts away and you're like, oh, they died. And then it just cuts back to them and they're just fighting again, even though they were just stabbed through the heart or whatever. And like, there's just like a little bit of blood splatter. So I kind of got used to like, oh, pretend this guy's almost going to die. And even Ranking of Kings does this to some extent where people almost die or it's played like they died and then they come back. But this one, they just died. Like Biscuit, I think, is like a fan favorite.
I have to keep going. Not here. Not now. I can't die.
Oh my god, don't. Oh god. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put that as one of my pluses that I really liked. It's the way how essentially the redemption of Biscuit when he first said he was quitting and he told Orga, I'm like, hey, can we talk after this? And then of course it's like, yeah, that's fine. So they were still like in command with each other. The moment I saw that blast happen, I was like, I cried hard when he died because I was a lot like, who's gonna take care of his sister? He's gonna put his sisters through school, man.
I'll go back to Mars. To Cookie and Cracker. And put them through school.
Yeah, Cookie and Cracker.
Dude, and the thing is, it's like, it's one of those few times in like an anime. Well, in my viewing experiences, I've seen so many deaths, so many things that impacted stories and stuff like that, where it changes characters. Because that one really did change a lot of the characters that were around Biscuit. You can tell it took a toll on everybody.
Well, it kind of made it real for a lot of them.
It did, and that's why and also a positive on this thing, because this is actually going to go into my next thing that I'm going to talk about. The female characters in this series are, and this is the exact opposite when you guys were talking about in your guys' episode about like how female characters are treated. These are actually some of the strongest characters that you can honestly see in any type of anime that you've seen.
I agree with that.
And if you choose to disagree with what I've been saying, that's fine. You can shoot down this ship right now!
Because when Meribits pretty much told everybody about essentially death and like how everyone should actually, just even told them not to like try to set revenge because she knew it'll lead everyone to a dark path. But essentially, since they're kids, like they don't know any better. So they have to like go through it. And she was really babying everybody not to do it. But the fact that like she let it happen, it showed that she was willing to essentially like let everyone around her like fall to like the dark end of like the spectrum and just let it happen. And even though she regrets it, later on, like towards the very end of the first season, you can tell that she felt that she really did make the right decision just letting it actually happen, which I really enjoyed that.
When she was like surprised that they could still be kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're so right, it plays against type in a lot of ways because there's a harem, and the girls in the harem are very independent. I mean, they are very strong characters, and they don't just follow Naze or whatever. I mean, they have their own voice, their own agency, whatever. So you're right. You're right. You're very right.
And then going up again on the whole tough women part thing, which is a plus on Atra. Atra, when she was captured and getting beaten on, the fact that she didn't crack, I was like in shock like most of the time, because even if it was me and I was getting beaten for just letting out information, I would have already given up, but she didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it was hard when she was like, well, I'm used to it. I got beat harder growing up, and you're like, yeah, that girl was tough.
That backstory.
Yeah.
Why did you let them beat you like that?
What, this? It's nothing. Used to happen every day when I was a little girl. Besides, Miss Kudelia is a part of our family now.
And that's like a nice little background, like drop in without having to do like a cut.
I actually liked her more than Kudelia as a character. Just preference, right?
Yep.
All right, I've got a little story here that I would like to tell about as I was watching this. I just got to find it. All right, so this is the scene where the orphans get a representative from Tawas on the ship. And during this scene, I was eating a bowl of cereal. And as I was eating the bowl of cereal, it was crunching in my ears, and I thought the dialogue...
But what kind of cereal?
I don't want to... It's like old man's... I was eating a bowl of Total. Yeah, basically, I was eating a bowl of Total.
Just
but
make
anyway,
it up. It was Fruit Loops.
There you go.
Yeah, it was Lucky Charms, 100% Lucky
Lucky Charms are
Yep.
delicious.
Yeah. And what I heard in the dialogue was, "It's nice to meet you. My name is Mary Simpleton." And then Naze Turban says, "Mary came from our baking division." You know, like space donuts and stuff. So Mary Simpleton from the baking division. I rewound it, and it's Maribit Stapleton from the banking division. So
what you're saying is what you heard was very sexist.
And funny.
Yeah.
And what it actually was not funny. So that's a diss in my book. 100%.
Oh, man.
So follow that up, somebody.
Well, I'll cut back to Biscuit's death, because that was also like
Nice charge change.
it was a great charge change, and it was a lot like since I mentioned Lord of the Flies, it's a lot like Piggy's death in Lord of the Flies. The guy that's kind of the voice of reason, he gets killed.
Yeah, with that big rock.
Rough scene to watch.
Yeah.
And changes the complexion and changes everything. And the end of this, where all the kids are like ready to die for it, wouldn't have rung true without like a very important death like that. Like, hey, this person is like in the credits and on posters, and he's an important character, and he died, so now anyone can die.
To them, we're just human shields who can go and fight their battles for them.
Yeah, Biscuit's death really hit me hard, just because, kind of like how you were saying, he was the moral compass, he was the voice of reasoning. He wanted to do everything for his family and his brothers to achieve their dream. And the thing that made it more salt to the wound was he was going to talk to Orca, and it never happened.
Yeah.
But Biscuit risked his life to save Orca, to lead his brothers, to have them achieve their dreams, and Biscuit will not die in vain.
Then we can all be together again.
Yeah, that's a great point. It doesn't feel like cheap, like
Exactly.
we're killing him to make you feel bad, or to like, it really works in the story.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too, because he wasn't the fighter.
Yeah.
That wasn't his role.
Right.
We never saw him go into battle, guns blazing, with his, I can't remember the name, Benyana hooked up or whatever.
Bananya?
Banana?
Yeah.
Well done. Bananya, yes.
Bananya.
Yep. The best anime ever created actually is Bananya. But yeah, so he straps in for this one moment, and it's his doom, but it just shows that was a bigger deal than just him joining the battle. It was him sacrificing for it. Yeah, I like that. Ash, what do you got next?
So I have one from a side character that actually deserves a plus because I doubt anyone of you guys actually have anything from this character, but Akihiro.
That guy is unbelievable! No matter what happens, he doesn't give up!
This one phrase resonates from me because when I heard that, I was like, I know exactly how he feels. The moment his brother mentioned that they were space debris, it just showed that you know that everyone around them has always treated them like garbage.
Yeah.
And the fact that to the point where if it breaks you, you're just going to always see yourself as garbage. I like the fact, and this is a plus, that when Akihiro was trying to save his own brother, Mashiro, the entire time, Mashiro, like, one noble act that redeemed him from becoming space debris was essentially pushing him away and essentially and then actually taking the sacrifice for Akihiro. And him just, like, breaking down when that happened.
So, brother, understand? This is how you die if you're human. I don't get it! There's no way I can accept that!
It's like, it was a very powerful scene because, like, you can tell that he felt that his brother actually just got redemption from essentially being a slave the entire time to out of nowhere just being a hero in his eyes. And all he had to do was essentially just fight back just for his sake. It showed that the fact that, like, some characters aren't written to be the main guy, but you can tell that he is looked upon as being another person that could essentially step up to that mantle. And I love the fact that Akihiro got that chance.
Yeah, and that the scene with his brother is the first time I felt the orphans part of it. That was the first time I really felt the orphans part of Iron-Blooded Orphans.
You'll be reborn! I swear it! You hear me? You'll be reborn and come back to me!
And the first time that, after watching 86 and enjoying that so much, that I understood why people compare these two anime so closely. That was the first time I really started getting into it. So that's a great call out. Now, that said, can we talk about that name? Like, dude's name is really like Aki, as in gross. Like, baby talk, that's Aki. That's Aki. Hero. So it means he's like, shit hero.
Yeah.
Right? So
love that.
Other than that, great character. Yep. Sorry, Merv, what were you gonna say?
The other side character that I thought that they did a good job with is Ein.
Oh my god.
Who had a similar kind of deal where he's a half Martian. And these are characters that neither of them are, probably like, 20 minutes total between the two of them on screen. But he has that half Martian descent, and he makes that speech about on Mars everyone hates him because he has Earthling blood or whatever, and on Earth everyone hates him because he has Martian blood. It's like the Jon Snow character, the like prototypical outsider, doesn't fit in anywhere, is too noble to be a peasant and too peasant to be a noble. I like when side characters have something that it's just this one, here's a little idiosyncrasy, that's a little part of him. Now we understand the character and we start to feel for him, even though he's a quote unquote bad guy.
Yeah, and we got that motivation, and you knew it was effective because it ends without that being resolved, because his motivation was to get revenge for the general or whatever the guy, I can't remember what the guy's name was.
The guy that treated him well.
Yeah, it was like General Chuck, I think it was.
Idiots. Crank. You better be doing your job.
Yeah, and all it would have taken is a conversation between Ein and like Mikazuki for them to talk about what had actually happened in that moment and how it was more of a sacrifice.
All of the troops will pay for my actions. But then, if I die battling you, then all the responsibility can go down with me.
They just would have had to talk it out, and that whole conflict would be resolved, but they never got that chance, and Ein dies. So I thought that was pretty powerful, yeah.
I want to piggyback on the Ein thing as well. So this is a plus on my end, because even though Gjallarhorn is essentially militaristic, God damn it, I can't speak right now.
Militaristic.
Thank you. I'll take that.
I'll take being the one that's correcting someone mispronouncing something.
That's a first. Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially they're pretty much the main force when it comes to enforcing anything that's around them. And I love the fact that even though they're supposed to be the ones essentially keeping the peace of everything, and this is a plus on my end, that the fact that there was corruption inside their actual like heads, it shows that for a fact, even though it might be a perfect system, there's always a flaw somewhere. And that's why I like the fact that McGillis is pretty much saying the entire time, there is corruption here and we need to like purify it for this reason, for it to continue on, or else everyone would just start hating us. And that's why I love the fact that the general, when he went down to go challenge Mecha, even though his moral code pretty much said he does not fight or kill children,
we were fighting against children.
Children? So you went out there and allowed some little punks to defeat you?
Did you hear me?
He was still willing to go in there to be a martyr, to pretty much say like, hey, our time is what I felt was he said, our time is over. Our time is over. Like, these kids are essentially going to be the ones taking over soon. And that actually resonated pretty well for that only being about like, I think it was the second episode or third. And it was pretty good the way how that actually ended up being, because you can tell that he had clarity of essentially like his final moments where it's like, what we were doing is actually wrong. And he let himself essentially die to Mecha, which I thought was phenomenal.
You see, son, I can't bring myself to end my own life. Thank you so.
Well, my understanding is Galahorn, back in the day, Calamity War, they were the heroes. Galahorn was the hero organization that rose up to take out the bad people. Right? And then to see them get twisted into the villain, I think that's a cool story beat as well.
That was another question I had. Is that from, because like I was watching this and I was thinking, man, if I had watched all the other Gundams, this would be sweet, but maybe that's not the case, because I was thinking things like Barbados. I was like, oh, he's probably, Super Gundam back in the day.
That's what I thought too.
And now it's like 300 years later, and it's like, oh, here he is. And if I watch Gundam, I would know who he is and be like, oh, sweet. And the same thing with the Galahorn. Galahorn. I thought they were like, oh, in the past they were a sweet good guy group, and now they've been corrupted. And if I had watched it, I would know that. So, but they weren't part of anything either.
No, the most common repeating thing that usually happens in most of the Gundams, there's just one specific military faction that comes around, and that is Zed. Zed's always like the constant one that everyone always sees. The thing is, they're always like depicted as either being the bad guys or the good guys most of the time. And the thing is, like, it depends on the story that's actually being told 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
But you really don't need to like watch the other stuff to get what's going on here.
There's not like a tight continuity or anything like that. It's
just... There kind of is, but at the same time there really isn't. But it's a very, very confusing timeline.
It sounds very Final Fantasy to me. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, and it sounds very much like that, where they're all kind of similar and they'll have little crossover elements, but it's not a continuous story in any way.
No.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go back to you, Daddy Coon.
All right. I really liked the procedure that the kids, or not really kids, but that I forget the term of it. The
Alea Binyana.
All we need is the interface from the Alea Binyana.
Alea Binyana? That system uses special nanomachines and can only fuse with children because they haven't finished growing.
Yes, that spinal surgery that they get. I thought that was really great, that how you kind of like, if you wanted to have more of like a sixth sense, more like battle awareness, like a video game, like you could get that procedure, but it's kind of frowned upon. And, certain characters had that. Mecha had that. He was super, super awesome, when like he was fighting other...
Yeah, he had 3 of them.
Yeah, like when he was fighting the enemies, I'll just say the enemies, they're like, haha, he's a kid, like he's not a warrior. And then they go, and then he's just dodging their attacks and just blowing them apart, and they're like, what? How?
I know I can take him down! Did he just throw his weapon? Where'd he go?
Because of that.
Yeah, how's he so fast?
Exactly. And they kind of say throughout the season is like, yeah, if you want to be more in tune, more one with the Gundam, get the procedure. But they even say like, it's very uncomfortable. The procedure still hurts, and that's something they kind of hint towards throughout the season.
And even the way they design it in the animation, could you imagine having those
sticking out?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was intentional because they could have just made it plugs, Matrix
Yeah.
style,
Yeah.
on the back, right?
Yeah.
But I think they wanted to emphasize that this was not something normal. This was not something that felt good. This is something that was a hindrance forever. So you've got these whiskers sticking out on your back. So yeah, I think that's a good call out.
And it was a crux of the like conflict, right?
Yeah.
Because all the kids, all the orphans didn't think it was weird. In fact, the kids all thought it was cool. And the earthlings, I keep calling them humans, they're all humans, but the earthlings are like, this is the worst thing that you could do. It's so inhuman to have those implants. And then it was kind of what McGillis was talking about with like, we have to adapt. They're always going to beat us because they don't have these kind of traditional values.
Yeah.
And it may be one of those things we look back in the future and go, that was prophetic, because people will eventually have some sort of body modification, body enhancement, and merge with machines, computers, whatever. Sorry, Daddy Coon, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I think it looks cool, and I love how like and
he's like, sign me up.
Yeah.
I want the 3.
No, yeah, exactly how you said. So like the orphans and like their family, it was something totally cool and totally normal. But to Earthlings, they're like, how could you have that? You know, like you're not human per se, because they're disfigured. In their eyes, they are, but to them, they're warriors.
Yeah.
I'll put that as a plus. I thought that was really interesting.
All we need is the interface from the Alea Vignana. These mobile suits from the Calamity War should be compatible.
Alea Vignana?
Well, isn't that cool how it becomes such a major thing of the story, where the reason that had become shunned is because Gallahorn didn't want people to become that powerful by having that ability to use the Gundam frames so well. So they essentially on purpose made it culturally wrong to have those I just thought that was a really cool.
That was really cool.
And how like McGillis's his motivation was to bring that back into the fold and make that cool again, because he sees that as like the pinnacle of humanity. So yeah, I thought it became a lot bigger than you thought at first.
They wanted a monopoly on strength.
Yeah.
A lot of that too is, and there's another like that I had, is like, and they drop you right in, so it is a little, you're swimming a little bit at first, but the world feels huge. That's why I thought all this stuff was from the past, because everything feels like thought through, intelligent. I was never like, oh, that doesn't seem like that fits in the world. Everything felt like this has been around for a long time. The world just felt giant and real.
Ash, it's you, man. What's something you got?
Aw, thank you. So there's another like I have right here, and it's not one specific thing. It's a whole episode. And episode 18 really did hit me a lot harder than I thought it would have, because that was like the turning point where I feel that, and I actually labeled this specifically too, episode 18, the best episode of the first season. And this was the turning point for essentially Atra and actually Kuleria, for actually having like the biggest growth. And it showed you and it showed you right there what I was saying earlier too, about some of the female characters in this entire series are some of the strongest that you will ever see in anime.
We know what you've been planning, so you might as well stop trying to hide it.
There isn't anything for me to talk about. Not to you two.
And them actually for them going through the stuff that they actually ended up going through, for them pushing forward. And then not only that, for I thought this was the funniest thing, because like I don't know why this had to happen, but I thought it was great when Mika like started comforting both of them. And it's like, it's essentially telling them like, hey, you guys are now all right now. It's like so freaking powerful. It's just,
a lot of people make the argument that the droids are the main characters in the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy. And I feel like Atra is that position in this story. Like everything kind of happens around her, but she's kind of the heart of it.
Well, and Mikazuki's comforting them, and then literally like the final scene of the whole thing is them comforting him. So what a cool turn of phrase that was. Exactly. And just adds to, I guess, how poignant it was, Ash, like you were talking about. Some of the humor landed for me very, very hard on this. I know that some of the, especially the one I'm going to bring up, is not Merv's style of humor. It's not what he likes to laugh at. But there's a scene where, and I can't remember her name, but she was like one of the main Galahorn people, and she was like one of the super high up nobility. And she would always say this thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ishu?
Yeah, Ishu, right?
Ishu Karta, yeah.
Yeah, she would say, we're the Federation Blop Coalition Force. And then all her little plebs or whatever would be like, yeah, and we beat everyone or whatever. and there's the part where she goes to do that. And she's like, we're the blah, blah, blah Federation Coalition. And then the plebs start to go, and we beat, and then mid-sentence, one of them just gets blasted. In
Bam!
That was great.
I know exactly
That was
what
great.
you're
was
talking
like-
about.
That was great.
We were good to start, right? And you're like, yeah, go ahead. We don't wait for that kind of stuff.
Remember, we're the Outer Earth Orbit Regulatory Joint Fleet!
We are perseverant and multitudinous!
It was okay to shoot, right?
Of course it was.
It was dope. I love that scene. I rewound that 4 times because I was laughing so much.
No, I thought that was
at
funny.
the surprise
that was
humor.
That's not a non sequitur. That is set up.
Okay.
What you're talking about that I don't like is non sequitur. But they set that up by, like you said, repeating it over and over. So we were used to and we were ready for that to happen. And then Mika
And then the
kinda
surprise.
starts because they're like, aren't they like, we'll give you 1/2 an hour
Exactly.
to settle yourselves and be and then
That was a different one, but yeah.
No, yeah, that was different.
The one I'm talking about was on the island when they were on the island picking up the old guy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the other part where it was cool is I love that too, where she's like, I'm going to give you a half hour. And you think this normal storytelling beat stuff.
Right.
They're going to, nope.
Yeah.
especially in anime, you're like, okay, they're gonna stand there and stare at each other for a half an hour.
And figure out who's ranked the highest.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all at war, right? It's kind of like shoot, they were just blabbing on. It's like, yeah, we beat this person, but Mika's just like, what do you mean? Like, I just blasted your homie, and then Ishu's like, do you not have class? Like, do you not let us finish before we engage in our battle? It's like, no, we're at war. Like,
Yeah, hard pass on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like when you're watching some not necessarily anime, but almost anything, especially like Saturday morning cartoons or Marvel movies. The bad guy will just start talking, and it's like, why aren't you just killing him right now? Just now's your chance.
Let me tell you my plan.
Right, just kill him. Now's your chance. Get him.
I'd like to jump in. I do have one more diss, and then I have a couple other things that I like. So I kind of understand why, but there was the funeral episode where they had the funeral and they sent everyone out and they had the
sky flowers.
They shot the mortars off that were the sky flowers. Yeah. And I felt that some of the charge changes there, some of the shifts were not great. And I get it because it was supposed to be the fact that the orphans didn't understand how to deal with death, didn't understand how to deal with the funeral. So they're all reacting in different ways.
Apparently, funerals were a fairly important tradition for much of Earth's history. By going through these ceremonies, they say the soul of the dead forgets the pain they had when they were alive.
But these charge changes, these shifts happened so fast, it kind of wrecked it for me a little bit. So this is a little bit of what actually happened. So the funeral's going on, and one of them says, I won't cry because it's lame, right? Serious moment. I'm not going to cry because that's lame.
Right.
You can cry. That's what a funeral's for. It allows the living to remember those who've gone and say their goodbyes one last time.
And then right to charge change to an attempt at comedy where one of them's like, it's booby time now, and goes and hugs one of the girls because it's booby time, right?
No! Your chest is too flat, Atra! I want booby time!
Come on!
And then the next charge change is the one that made me put on this list, to one of them saying, I'm not going to make you sky flowers when you die because they're too expensive to make.
No, because they take a lot of work to make, and it costs too much.
You're right. Sorry to bother you, man. Just wanted to say thanks.
And to me, that like erased all that like one crappy line. And I kind of get it, but for me, it diluted the rest of those charges for me. And I didn't think it was the best choice right there.
I felt the same way. There's a couple, but at the end when they're talking about Biscuit, in his death, the same kind of thing happens where they start to get like, oh man, his cookie and cracker.
Grand tier.
Cookie! Cracker!
Bro!
Like, who's going to take care of them? Someone's going to have to tell them. And then they start like arguing over who's going to tell them. It transitioned into a nice moment. But that moment right there where they're like, no, you got to tell them. No way, you tell them. Oh, you tell them. It was like, we're talking about telling this guy's like twin sister and younger sister that he's dead. The joking was like, felt out of place.
Yeah, not a good charge change point.
Yeah, moved into the moment where I can never remember anyone's name, but the citizen, nice dressed woman is when she decides that they can still be children.
Oh, Maribeth.
Yeah, thank you. So I get that they needed that moment, like that needed that moment of them being children, but it could have been talking about something else.
I agree with that as well. Yeah. All right. So one of the things I actually did want to bring up, and we only touched on this character specifically pretty short. This is the whole cultural thing that I'm gonna talk, that you guys know that I talk about very often. And Fumitan is a goddamn waifu in my eyes.
You're amazing, Fumitan. You know so many things, but I want to find out more.
and nice. This is a positive and a negative in my eyes. When it comes to this specific character, one, she knew that Cluredia is a very naive child. And I love that scene where she essentially goes to this very like poor country or poor like part of the world she's in. And she goes around trying to help like just one person at a time. But then the moment they all surround her, she gets overwhelmed and she gets really scared of what's going on. And I love the fact that Fumitan pretty much essentially told her, it's like, you're very naive. This is what is essentially, it's like what's holding you like down.
These kids, they can be so foolish.
And it hit me a little hard on that one because it's like she's a child, but at the same time, she comes from a very privileged house. So in her eyes, she feels that this is correct. But Fumitan knows it's like, this is the stupidest thing that you are doing right now. And you just can't help anybody by doing that.
Fumitan has that great line. Feeding them is not the same as saving.
Yeah. I thought that was a very powerful message. And one of the biggest things that I really hated, but it kind of did get a redemption, is her lasting words to her when she took that bullet for her. And this was the reason why I considered her as being like essentially the waifu, one of the strong female characters. And essentially she ended up being my favorite character for only her being there for such a short amount of time. Her sacrifice in general, knowing that she even betrayed her as she was a child and that she got redemption for herself. And not only that, when she took the bullet, you can also see that the person that took the shot is like, why the hell did she take the shot for her? It's like, that's the stupidest thing. It's fine. We knew that she was a traitor from here on out. It's like, we knew that. I saw that coming. Like, I really did see that coming because it really wasn't. They telegraphed that thing very blatantly. So you saw it. You saw it.
Yeah.
There was no way you'd be like, oh, of course she's going to kill herself. But the way how they handled it, it changed the perspective of how I felt, because that sound was like, okay, yeah, she's gonna die. I know she's gonna die. And then once you see it all played out, the necklace essentially giving it back to her, I'm like, oh man, she played that very, very well, and I just hated the fact that she died.
It's a great character arc too. Of as a character, her psychology is she is trying to do what's right, or what she thinks is right, kind of for society. And then she makes the decision of what is actually right for society.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your protecting me.
You don't have to thank me.
Yes, but because of me, those people...
You gotta stop this, all right? You really think all those people died because of something you did?
There's a couple of points I would add to that. So I really liked how, because of the sacrifice, and maybe even without it, Kudelia's opinion of Fumitan did not change. Even after the betrayal, she still saw her as this amazing person. She really knew who she was, even if Fumitan didn't know who she was for a minute, right? She still knew who she was. So I thought that was an amazing turn there. The other thing I really liked, and what this reminded me of, is none of the flashbacks overstayed their welcome ever.
No.
Oftentimes you get these flashbacks and it's at a key moment and you're like, I don't want to watch this. I want to get back to what was going on, right? None of the flashbacks in this overstayed their welcome. They were all very short. They all got right to the point. Didn't need to over-explain anything. You got the backstory, you're back in it. And I really appreciated that about the way this was written. All right, Daddy Kun, we haven't heard from you in a little bit, my friend. What's something you got?
I guess kind of touching on what you said, Blake. I know like a lot of anime, when they do flashbacks scenes, it feels like a Dragon Ball episode. It's like 4 episodes and then they go back into it. I feel like they were short, precise, and got to the point. It's like, okay, kind of like you said, the flashbacks did not overstay their welcome. I thought they were perfect, short, sweet, got to the point, back to the current storyline. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like maybe some anime watchers don't pay attention to, but for us that are more perceptive, we appreciate small things like that.
Yeah, because it keeps it moving for you.
Exactly.
It's kind of the opposite of my one big diss of Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Or as I've recently learned that the Japanese call it just Hunter Hunter. I didn't know the X was silent until recently. Yep. But either the flashbacks there or the thinking is a major problem in that show.
Yeah.
They just sit there for a whole episode, what they're thinking for 20 minutes about this move or about this situation, and it way overstays its welcome.
I wasn't expecting that, and it's weaker than its rock. You're an enhancer, no doubt about it. Paper's an emission, so it's much weaker.
So yeah, when I see the opposite of that, I very much appreciate it.
It's kind of one of the things that, too, I think a lot of people that, especially I know in my writing circles, that have trouble getting into anime, it's one of the hardest things for them to adjust to. And it was hard for me to adjust to it, too, because in Western writing, we very much set things up. We have Chekhov's gun, which he's Russian, so it's maybe not as Western as I would admit, but I always reverse it and just say if you have a gun go off in the third act, it has to appear in the first act. But in the Japanese style of writing, they will have a character act, and then they will show you why they are acting that way, where that psychology comes from. And sometimes, especially if it's like a whole episode or whatever, it can be really jarring. But in this, a lot of times it's like a sentence and they just show a little clip, or they don't even show a clip. And so it's much more smooth, and I think it's more forgiving. It would be more forgiving for a lot of people coming from that have generally watched Western storytelling.
Exactly.
I'm gonna slide in real quick with my last thing real quick. There's a big positive. Every dub voice I like was in this. Every single one of them. I mean, if you've watched a lot of dubbed anime, you would have recognized just about everyone's voice in this. So I loved hearing all of the great voices, all of the great dub voice artists of anime in one series. I thought that was really cool too.
I'm gonna do a diss. I don't want this to be the last one, so someone think of something good, because I hate when I diss is the last one. And this is another one of those things that it's not just a diss of this anime. I've brought this up before, most notably in Steins Gate, which is like one of my favorite series that we've watched.
Great one.
That we've done. Is that the age stuff is so goofy. Like Orga, I would guess, is like 40.
It won't take too much longer before their business goes south. Then the jobs will get even more dangerous for us.
And if we leave, kids like us will never be able to find jobs.
Yeah, thank you. But instead he's like, what, 14 or something?
Yeah.
You know, like Mika.
No, he's 19.
Yeah, he's old.
19.
Yeah, and they like refer to him as kids. And there are like the group of them that don't really, that don't do as much, that are kind of cleaning and carrying stuff. And those are obviously children. But then you have kind of some of the main characters that they keep talking about, like, man, they're just a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And he's like a foot taller than them and talks in a deep voice.
Yeah.
Anime has changed this forever for me. Even when Ash was talking about Metal Gear Solid and Solid Snake and how he's 50, and I'm like, I so appreciate having a hero that's 50 because it gets a little tiring where they're always 15 or 16 or whatever. So now it stands out way more to me when it's like, this main character's 30, 40, 50. Wow, that's awesome.
That's why I like it when they differentiate the different genres when it comes to stuff, because technically, like, this show isn't really in the category of shonen. It's in the category of mecha. It's in mecha and in space. So whenever you get any one of the combination of those two, you're usually going to get kids, but they're kids like actually coming into the adulthood of like their time. So 18, 19,
okay.
20, 21, you'll get those, and specifically Gundam actually surprisingly does do that, and most of the other series, because they are actually older kids. This fits more, I feel it always fits more in the seinen, but the thing is they never classified this in the seinen genre ever.
I thought seinen. That's what I thought when I watched
because they
it.
tackle
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
heavy-hearted like subject matters. Like even shonen does do that, but the problem what I have with always shonens, and this is always like the biggest thing what I always had, and it's a big diss to shonen. They make sure the kids stay kids for like either the whole entire series run, or they'll grow up towards like the last like 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's
they're just suddenly adult.
Yeah, because like we could like this is gonna be a small tangent. It's be a quick one. We could take Dragon Ball for instance. Like
I was thinking about Dragon Ball.
But by the time the end of Dragon Ball, the actual first series, Goku is a teenager. By the time we get to Dragon Ball Z, he's like he's barely reaching his 20s, barely. And the thing is, when he dies for like for a while, but he's died like about 3 times, I believe, in the entire series. And he actually still hasn't reached the age of him being in his 40s throughout the series yet. So he's still young, but his wife is already like getting close to like midlife. And it's ridiculous that the fact that like they purposely keep kids. And this is why I like mechas, like for instance, like this one.
I think a lot of that is probably like marketing, right? Because
Usually.
if you have a character like Deku or something and you have a certain design of him, you don't want to suddenly make him. Now he's also a foot taller and has a beard.
Yeah.
Right, but doesn't Goku, even when he ages up just a little bit, there's a big difference, right?
There
like
is.
He's little and then he's like big.
You could see his growth, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and it's like, based on what you're saying, the actual age changes. It's almost obtuse, like where he grows too much based on what the actual age difference is. I thought seinen with this too, just because of 2 things: 1, all the adult themes, and 2, all the sprinkling in of the little sexy stuff.
You weren't all that different from him yourself when you were younger. If you feel like reminiscing, we could do it in bed while we cuddle.
Give me a break, would you?
You know, I mean, I talked about the beginning of episode 7. Like, that's what I thought for sure. Yeah. Who else has something else?
So I'm gonna start with a negative, and then I will finish off with a plus. So the diss that I have when it comes to essentially this main series is the fact that when we knew there's corruption in Gjallarhorn, we knew it. That like McGillis said it a bunch of times. Even the fact that once he gets revealed as being the one that wants to liberate everybody and essentially is the traitor amongst like Gjallarhorn in general, and his fight with the Galileo was actually a really good one. But the fact that I'm bringing up McGillis, it's a really big bad thing, and I hate the fact that this does happen in anime and in manga. He has a very strange underage relationship with Galileo's like sister, and it is borderline creepy to the point where I've read enough material and seen enough to know that it's surprisingly that is always acceptable in a lot of the shows.
Yeah, that's the arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Have you watched any Japanese dating shows?
I actually know I never have, but the fact is, since I've seen so much rom-com...
No, why would anybody?
I have. Hey, look, talking about anime so much has gotten me exceedingly interested in Japan and Japanese culture. So when I see things Japan, I tend to gravitate towards it. And I did watch a Japanese reality show, and what's interesting is that was real. There was like 50-year-old dude with like 18-year-old girl, and although it wasn't as extreme as it was in this anime where he's like literally carrying her around like a baby, which was, as like you said, very awkward. It does seem to be a cultural thing, I guess.
I hate bringing this up, but I have to. But their age of consent is a lot younger than you think it is.
In Japan?
Yeah, as a country, it is. It's borderline, like, it's awful.
Like what we would assign a P name to here, potentially.
Pretty much, because, we have parts here in the U.S. where it's like 18 is the age.
Yeah.
But we have different states that say differently.
Yeah,
and I don't want to
17,
name in the
16.
states. Yeah, there is a state that literally says 16 is correct. Japan, on the other hand, 14 is the age of consent.
Yeesh. Yeah, that is.
Is that for everything? Like, can you sign a contract at age 14?
No.
Leave your parents?
No.
See, that's where I think everything should be that you should decide on the same age for all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like we have like weird if you're 17 you can do this, if you're 16 you can drive, if you're 18 you can join the military, if you're 21 you can drink. It's like no. And you're at an age where you can make decisions for yourself or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I brought this up as a diss, because this is one thing that it is problematic, and it happens in manga all the time as well. And it's something that we are gonna see it regardless. You will see it in everything, and it's a shame that it's always there, but that's just the way how it goes sometimes, and it sucks.
It didn't feel like exploitive or anything.
No.
It was
definitely
but that guy McGillis is a psychopath too, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Mika is like the foil for Mika.
Hey, wait. What about Mikazuki?
Yes, I forgot.
Are you serious?
If Mika's against me on this, that's it, you guys. I'll call it off.
It felt very extremely plutonic, even though it was
strange.
Like he felt very
uncomfortable,
like asexual.
Yeah.
Didn't have those kind of thoughts unless he needed to have those kind of thoughts to further his goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that is where the psychopath part comes in.
Yeah.
Good point.
And then
I think what real quick. I think what Merv and I do is we always in our minds tend to age up the characters in anime like 10 years, and it like fixes all the problems. So if they're like, we're 19, I'm like, no, you're 29.
Yeah.
If they're like, we're 60, I'm like, no, you're 26. And that like fixes a lot of that for us. But sorry, go ahead.
And then of course to end my little spiel on a positive note, the first OP, the first ending song, when those things hit, they hit really hard. But when you get to those like pivotal moments when like someone got like hit by something, and then you slowly start hearing the intro, the ending song come on, and you're like, no, you're kidding me. You're ending me on a cliffhanger like that. I'm like, those moments hit really hard because now that keeps you invested and wanting to continue watching the series. And that's probably my second biggest positive in the entire thing, because I think when I first started watching it, just for your guys' show, I binged 10 episodes the first day.
It does keep you going.
Yeah.
As human debris, I thought it didn't matter what I did. That nothing was ever gonna change. And to be honest, I even gave up on finding you again. Then one day,
They also do a really good job of making you actually watch all the credits, because stuff will still keep going on. Important things.
Yes.
So
Jesus.
I think kind of like touching back on McGillis's relationship with his best friend's sister. I understand he is psychotic, but I think kind of going back to, I believe, was it Blake or Merv that said that, like, they didn't really exploit it as much. Yeah, like, it's like there's a huge age difference. But to me, like, it wasn't like as creepy as like how other animes tend to portray like that age difference, right? I felt like it was more of like a platonic / admiration. Is like, yes, our families are like destined to marry one another, but I don't know what the law in Gundam is to get married on their planets. But
no one pulled a card out of their wallet like in Transformers and said, "This is the law."
I thought it was okay. I'm not saying like underage dating or anything like that is okay. I'm just saying, like, for the show, I feel like the relationship was like more platonic and like admirable versus like very creepy, unnatural, and
I don't think he saw her as a sex symbol or like as a sexy woman or even as a woman or even as a human being. Like that's not how McGillis kind of treats or behaves with other people.
To me, it went the other way, and where I'm going to jump in with Ash on this is there was one scene.
Yeah,
it was actually going the other direction, where she's looking around at the ballroom and staring at all of the women's butts and chests and looking at herself and she's trying really hard to be that woman for him. And that part was a little creepy to me, but it was the opposite direction from what you would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of touching on like what you said, like she wants to be the woman that, like, grown woman for him to see her. But in reality, he's like, you don't need any of this for me to see you, for me to admire you.
But
really
let the record show, when we were talking about this young child thinking about being a woman, Ash reacted with hearts.
Yeah. I didn't need to. Damn it, I've been exposed.
Well done.
We caught you on 4K.
Right, apparently, yeah.
All right, I'll throw this out there. Does anyone else have anything else you would like to say about Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans?
Besides the fight scenes, I really enjoyed how, like, if when you had the whisker procedure, how, like, you guys were saying, kind of like Mecha. What's Mika's Gundam frame name? It's
Barbatos.
Yeah. There was times where Mecha was being overwhelmed, right? And he was like, "Please,"
especially at the end.
Yeah. And he called to his Gundam. He's like, "Barbatos, please, like let's push it, like let's take it to the next level." And the Gundam's eyes just like, and then like it's kind of like an acknowledgement. It's like they're in unison, they're one. He's connecting with Mika, and I thought that was like really cool. And that's something that like maybe like some viewers just don't pay attention to, is like, okay, yeah, his eyes lit up, cool, but it's like, no, it's like an acknowledgement between those two, between Barbatos and Mika, like that. I thought that's really cool, even if it's something so small like that. It's really cool, at least to me.
I was pleasantly surprised by that, and I'll tell you why. So often in anime, it's, I just need to believe real hard and I can get that next level of power to win, and it has zero effect on me negatively. I just need to believe harder and my muscles get bigger, right? And I was so worried at that exact moment, Daddy Kun, that you're talking about, that's where this was going. And then it goes back to Mikazuki and his eye is like exploding.
Yeah.
And blood's pouring. And then at the end, he can't use one of his arms anymore. And I'm like, that is like a big middle finger to all those animes that are like, I'm just going to power up through love and hope.
And friendship.
And friendship.
Right?
Friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
Heart of the cards.
God, dude. Yeah.
And that's why friendship is the best thing ever. Yes, friendship is great. Must go get friends.
I mean, it's hard to fault any of the Gundam stuff of this. Like, the giant robots were sweet, the designs were sweet, obviously. Like, the fighting was cool, that giant, like, wrench sword that he had.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
That was sick.
The fight scenes are just really amazing. Every of the Gundam frames has like different tangibles, different abilities, different weapons, kind of like how you said. I think my favorite one was Mika's Barbatos, like that sword he had, but it was like a pincher. So, like if you were caught in between, womp, there you go. There's your Gundam frame arm, there's half of the Gundam frame. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and Ainz at the end I thought was a really good design too, because it was imposing compared to the others. You watch the others and you think, oh, they're so sweet, whatever. And then Ainz' huge, crazy one where he's in like a Bacta tank, connected to it at the end. And it was definitely a step up.
Leia Vignana integrated perfectly.
Thank you so much for what you've done. Now I'll finally be able to avenge Lieutenant Crank.
And felt imposing in that way.
Oh yeah. Especially since he was like in the kind of like how you said, the Bacta tank.
Yeah.
And then like it's just like his it's his mentality, just like, like I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep moving forward regardless of what state I'm in. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, singular focus.
Yeah.
All right, I will ask again. Does anyone else have anything else you'd like to say about Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans?
I don't.
I'm good.
All right, very good. Thank you all so much, gentlemen.
Of course.
I'm going to throw this out there. I would love to get Merv to watch it. I would love to do 86 if you guys are down for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, start watching 86 and we'll figure out a date to get back together and talk about that if it sounds like you guys are down. And I'd love to talk about that one, especially off the back of this one.
I have no problem doing that. We already did an episode on the first season of it, so it's still fresh in our heads.
Kind of like how you said, Blake, when you were watched 86 86 also were watching this, I was on the same boat. I watched 86, and right after was Iron-Blooded Orphans. And I saw like similarities, correlations between the two, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I would have loved to talk about 86 with you guys.
Awesome. Well, let's get that planned.
Yes.
Mr. Ash Basham and Daddy Coon, why don't you tell us a little bit once again about Simping for Senpai, where people can find you? Please, obviously, check out their podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast, and
except Pandora.
Except Pandora.
No one. Pandora's like 0.3%
no one
of
uses that
podcasts.
anyway.
No one does.
Yeah.
It was cool 20 years ago.
Exactly.
All right, you want me to talk about it, or do you want to talk about it, Teddy Coon?
Ladies first, so go ahead.
God damn it. All right, so I am the aforementioned doctrine of the anime titties himself, Mr. Ash Basham. That's my moniker that I go by. We have a specific saying on our show, and it's to watch your goddamn animes. It doesn't matter whether if it's a shonen, rom, seinen, mech, it doesn't matter. Watch them, because you'll find something there that you will like, and that's essentially the tagline that we have for our show. We talk about manga, anime, anything that gets the S's going essentially in the world of anime news and all that stuff. So come check us out, and also follow us on Twitter at SempXSempaiPod. And also I will give these guys the link, my link tree, for you guys to just click on it. Anywhere that you want to listen to us, we're there. Come check us out.
Anyone who listens to us, and I know Merv will agree, anyone who listens to us is going to enjoy listening to you guys. So
For sure.
Oh yeah.
it's a no-brainer, slam dunk.
I mean, not as much.
Right. Well played.
Oh yeah.
Well played. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please look forward to another episode very soon. If you want to find us, if you don't know already, animeshoshin.com, ANIMESHOSHIN.com. And that's where we live. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
It's over for you. You're done. But you'll be back.